بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
The name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful.
Sisters in Islam to the Knowledge Beats Ignorance room here in Paltalk. This evening we have with us Brother Isa al-Islam, who will share with us his journey. Welcome, Brother Isa, and thank you for taking this time to share with us your journey. Please now take the mic and tell us how you find your way home to Islam.
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to all the non-Muslims in the room and all the Muslim brothers and sisters. It's good to be here with you. One thing I would like to do first, as is commonplace, to prove that I actually am a Muslim, I would like to testify toward my faith, and it goes like this: Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I testify that none is worthy of worship except Allah, and I testify that Muhammad is his prophet. Ameen. I'm a Muslim. I wasn't always a Muslim. Long time ago, I was a Christian in a land far away in a lifetime before this, and I've been asked to relate why I went from being a Christian to other things to becoming a Muslim. Well, I was born, we'll say 50 years ago for a nice round number, 50 years ago. And when I was born, I was baptized into the Episcopal Church, the Episcopal/Anglican Church, the Church of England. And that is how I grew up. I grew up in the church, doing the choir when I was young, up until I was about 10. And then when my parents moved to Florida, I was confirmed at the age of 12 in the church my mother had gone to her entire life. I was confirmed and into the quote-unquote catechism of the church. And about 6 months later, I started being an altar boy, an acolyte, as they're called, in the Episcopal Church. Acolytes are trainees, or young men of devout nature who are supposed to be helping the priests, learning the priesthood from the ground up, taking steps towards becoming possibly priests or lay leaders in the church at a later date. So you're becoming familiar with the goings-on of the services, why things are done, becoming familiar with the Eucharist, assisting the priests, and things like that. And you go through a lot of training towards improving your connection with the church and your understanding of why things are being done. So I did this for 4 years. I was pretty devout about it. Every Sunday I was at church. Other occasions I considered it to be an honor to be at the altar serving the church and with the priest and serving my religion. And at the age of 16, I decided, well, I've been doing this for this long. I know everything about it that I could possibly know about it. And it's very fulfilling, and we're serving Jesus and we're serving God in the whole 9 yards. So I considered becoming a priest, which of course requires seminary school and things like that. And my priest, Father Sini, back then we called them fathers. We didn't call them pastors. We called them fathers. So he introduced me to the bishop of the diocese. And, of course, I had to go through an interview anyway. And so I had 3 or 4 months to work up to this interview, and I decided if I was going to do this, I was going to be very thorough in my research and really look into what I was getting into, because this is a lifelong commitment. So for a 16-year-old, I was pretty studious about it. We had the Encyclopedia Britannica, 1976 edition, 1968 edition. And I used that and the Bible, several Bibles, and some reference materials, in the library, and I did a lot of studying about Christianity and the Bible and Episcopalianism and things like that for about 3-4 months. And I came up with a set of questions that were bothering me because they were not answered to my satisfaction. You don't just accept some of the dogma of the Christian church. You look into it and you find, there's a problem here. And I found problems that I didn't like. Things I'd accepted all my life, I no longer accepted. I was questioning them because I was actually studying them and trying to figure out how they came up with the logic of these things. So when I went to see the bishop, I had a list of about 25 questions, and we got through some of them. There was no problem. He just straightened out some misinterpretations, he called them. And then I started asking him some serious questions like the divinity of Christ, How could Christ be divine when he denied it? And what was the Trinity all about when it wasn't even in existence inside the Bible, and things of such nature? And I started getting a bit of a runaround. I started getting there's some things you just have to take on faith. It is said this way because it's God's revelation to the apostles. Paul was apostle because of this. And about the fourth time I heard that, I started getting a little upset about it. So I hit him with the hardest question of all, was about the divinity of Christ. And did Christ even die on the cross? Because there's a passage in Luke about the crucifixion. And so I basically pinned him to the wall. I said, prove to me this happened. Prove to me the divinity of Christ. And he couldn't do it. And so I tossed my Bible on his desk and I walked out. And I never looked back. That was a long time ago. I can still remember it like it was today. It was not a pleasant scene. But anyway, I left Christianity, and when I graduated high school, I joined the Marines. Saw the world. I was a lay leader, a Christian lay leader in boot camp. Go to the priest. He was a Methodist. Come back, conduct prayer meetings, things like that. So I still had a belief in God. But the religious part of it was not there. It was just not working. The religious aspects of believing things a certain way because they tell you to was not working. So after that, I started becoming more and more agnostic, almost atheistic, in my approach to the entire question of religion. And when you're in combat, in the Marines, going around the world doing crazy, stupid things that can get you killed at any moment, they say there are no atheists. Well, I'm here to break it to them. I was an atheist. I was pretty hardcore about it. I was very militant about it, in fact. I would ask questions like, did God create man, or did man create God? Because in my mind, what I had read in the Bible was man creating God, anthropomorphism, the changing of God into an understandable human being instead of accepting God as God is. And I could never stop that from disturbing me because that was the only reference point I had. And when I was overseas, I studied Buddhism. That wouldn't work. And I got to study the Islamic cultures. In fact, when I was in elementary school, I went to a Lutheran school, and they actually told us about Mohammedism and some of the things about it. And they kind of joked about it, said, yeah, these people are a little bit freaky, you want to stay away from this. So that was in the second grade. But I learned about these things. But when I was going around the world, there's an old saying by Sun Tzu, the Chinese warlord, know your enemy. Know your enemy, study your enemy, and become him, and you will be him. And so I was constantly studying the people I would have to maybe go into combat with. The Russians, during the Iran crisis, the Iran hostage crisis in the late 70s, the Iranians, the Shia, and several other Arab cultures of the time, because everybody was fighting with Israel, and we had the Beirut bombing and things like that. So I was studying these people. And I got to know the culture, basically. I didn't really understand the religion, though. So I got out of the Marines, I became a civilian after 10 years. And in the civilian world, you're going around, you're just living your life. You're not really caring too much, you're just existing. And about January, February of 2007, minding my own business watching television, and there comes Ten Koppel on the History Channel with a trip into Iran. And he was doing a very open type interview show on Iran. And I was watching, and he was showing these things like the children lined up at school yelling death to America. 4-year-old children. The chalked drawing of the Statue of Liberty as a skull and crossbow, as a skull and a skeleton. The fear of the Iranian people of the United States,